All right, ready? Should we sing the theme song?
We could try.
All right, but do you have the lyrics? I need to get the lyrics.
I don't have the lyrics.
All right, so look them up right now. I'm looking up them.
No, I don't need them.
Are you serious?
We're just gonna wing it, baby.
Family Matters lyrics.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
All right, ready?
Fuck it.
All right, ready? All right, I got the lyrics. They just popped up just now, so I'll keep us on the beam. All right, ready?
All right, start me off with the music. I'll give us. All right.
Boom. Oh wait, are you gonna do it or am I gonna do it?
You're gonna do the music. I'm gonna kick us off with the choo.
All right, go.
Choo.
It's a rare condition in this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. Love and tradition of a grand design. Some people say it's even harder to find. Where there must be some magic clue inside these general. 'Cause all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting out of every seam. Days by, it's the bigger love of the family. Okay, yeah. Hey, so how are you, Spice? How are you tonight?
I'm doing quite well.
That's great.
How about yourself?
I'm good. To whoever is watching out there, if there's anybody watching, we've always, Jeremy and I, Spice and I, have always been fans of Family Matters, going way back. I remember actually going away to college and talking to you on the phone. Do you remember this? And I said to you, you said, so how was school or something? Or maybe I was just telling you about how school was. And I was going, I met this girl. Her name's Laura. And
wow.
Do you remember that? And
I do.
And you were like, you thought I was talking about some real family. It's like some real girl. And I said, but she has this neighbor named Steve, and he's always trying to get in between us. And her dad's a cop named Carl. And I was stringing you along, and then you finally caught on.
You know, that's something that you've always been really good at. The other day I was walking by, this place which is, it's a phone. I'm getting some echo. I'm getting some feedback.
Yeah, that might happen because I had to make you really loud so that there's enough bleed through on your end.
Okay.
So maybe don't talk so loud on your end, and you won't have that problem, unfortunately. Right. If anybody is listening, can you please let us know if Jeremy, if Spice doesn't sound, if you can't hear him, let us know, and we'll try and adjust it. We're flying by the seat of our pants tonight.
Call in. The number is 777-9311. We can also be reached at 867-5309.
That's right. You got it?
Yeah.
You got it?
So 777-9311 or 867-5309.
You got it? You're not picking up on what I'm putting down.
You're hearing me, right?
But you're supposed to say, I got it.
Oh, get it, got it, good.
No, you're supposed to. All right, yeah. Anyway,
so
Family Matters.
Say that, you mentioned that we were big fans of this show. I think it's important to first sort of paint the picture for any, Gen Zers who are maybe listening to this stream. What a staple not only this show was, but the entire lineup of TGIF.
That's right.
We spoke earlier about how, it wasn't even a question. It wasn't even a question what I was doing with my Friday night. I was, without fail, every Friday sitting in front of the TV watching TGIF on ABC. Now, of all the shows and the sort of cycling lineup that sort of went through and all the sort of, the in-between you know, they have these like sort of tie-ins with hosts, you know, talking about the next show and stuff like that. But the two shows that are really most memorable for me was this and Boy Meets World.
Well, I mean, there's also, wasn't Full House a part of TGIF, or am I mistaken on that?
Full House was, but I don't think initially it was. I think Full House originally was sort of standalone, and then towards the end of its run, got tied into, you know, I think they maybe built the lineup around the later seasons of Full House.
Interesting.
I think. Now, I remember Boy Meets World came a little bit later, but those two shows, and you know, maybe Sabrina, but like this show, Family Matters, was like the staple. It was the bread and butter that I remember being sort of from beginning to
premium end. Blue chip was Family Matters. Premium blue chip.
Yes, it was kind of like Old Faithful, and you know, by the end, by the later seasons, you know, and that's kind of the point, I think, of this stream is to sort of talk about, you know, what became of, you know, the metamorphosis that this show went through, which is just absolutely, I mean, there's so much to say about it, and we're going to get into a lot of that. But, yeah, I just remember this show always sort of like kicking off the you know, it was like
it's comfort food, man. It's for us. It's definitely comfort food. But the thing is, yeah. So Jeremy and I, Spice and I, over the years, have always like touched upon how wacky this show gets, and like, you know, it really does. It turns into Steve Urkel turns this show from a family situational comedy into pretty much it's a sci-fi show. It turns into a science fiction show. I mean, wacky, zany things happen as a result of Steve and his meddling with various sciences, and the show really becomes a buddy show. It goes from being a family show to a buddy show between Carl and Steve. And as we would find out in some of our research, both Jaleel White and Reginald Val Johnson, a.k.a. Carl Winslow and Steve Urkel, both wrote for the show.
Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Reginald Val Johnson. He was actually, what's that?
I just went, whoop, whoop.
Okay, yeah. So Reginald Val Johnson, originally born Reginald Johnson, added the Val to make his name sound more interesting when he went into acting. He went to Cardozo High School.
Yeah.
Which incidentally is the same high school that my mom was a graduate of. And they were both born in the year of 1952.
Same as my dad. My dad as well.
Also went to Cardozo?
No, my dad was also born in the year 1952.
Okay, so, well, you know, it's funny because my mom, you know, I was reading about Reginald Val Johnson a couple of years ago, and the, you know, the lineup of what do we call it? TGIF, right?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
Right.
Just because, you know, that's what I do when I'm bored. You go on Wikipedia and you read about random stuff.
Of course.
And so I ended up reading on his page, and that's how I know about the Bell and his name and stuff. But when I saw that high school, I said, wow, that's familiar. I think my mom went there. And then I saw that he was born in 52. I'm like, wow, like, you know, so I called my mom and said, Mom, what high school did you go to? Sure enough, she went to that same high school with Reginald Val Johnson. And another person of note who was also born in the same year, who went to that same high school, so probably the same graduating class.
Don't tell me Lou Diamond Phillips. Please tell me it's not Lou Diamond Phillips.
Actually, it's Ron Jeremy.
What?
And so I asked my mom if, you know, first of all, Ron Jeremy's real name, not Ron Jeremy. He, in his first pornographic film, he used his actual last name, and his family felt disgraced, and so they pressured him to never use his real name again in his pornographic roles. But yeah, so, you know, I asked my mom if she remembered either, you know, Reginald or Ron, and she didn't remember either of them. And she said it was because it was a big high school. But my personal theory is it's probably because it's before either one of them grew their trademark mustaches.
That's very, very possible because, you know, mustaches can be an iconic an iconic symbol of somebody's actitude.
Yes.
So to bring things back to Family Matters, yeah. So the show. So some other things of note before we do a dive. So just so everybody's aware, we have watched the first half of season 1. That's how we're going to try and do it, I guess. We're going to try and watch, and it was fitting that we ended on episode 12 of season 1 because that's when Steve Urkel comes into the show. But a little bit of background. So before Family Matters, there was a show called Perfect Strangers. You may have heard of it. And Harriet Winslow.
Strangers. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Perfect Strangers, which had the French guy, the foreign guy who was in
Melky.
He was in Stephen King's Langoliers, wasn't he?
Maybe it's Brandon Pitchert. That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, so that show, it takes place in Chicago, just like Family Matters, and both of those guys work, the Perfect Strangers, they work in the building where Harriet was an elevator operator. And so Harriet, the character of Harriet, played by the actress, I forget her name, Jeremy, I don't know if you have that information up, but if you do.
Jo Marie Payton.
Thank you.
She's credited, at least in the first season, as Jo Marie Payton France.
Okay.
Which was her married name.
Right.
But I think she was divorced by 89 or 90. So,
great.
But yeah, Jo Marie Payton France.
So she was on Perfect Strangers, and sometimes her husband, Carl Winslow, who was a cop, would also show up. And they thought, and she was a real zinger on the show. She would come in and the execs, the TV suits, thought that her character was strong enough to build a show around the Winslow family. And so that's how Family Matters was born. And it exists in the same universe as that. And because of Stephen Urkel, Family Matters also exists in the Step by Step universe, the Full House universe, and the Boy Meets World universe are all shared universe. Yeah.
I want to talk about Carl for another moment. This guy, Reginald Val Johnson, we all know him as having played a cop in Die Hard.
Right.
And there's a number of other screen appearances that he's made as a police officer, but it just, it takes us to the first episode, right? The opening of the first episode. He's wearing a police academy sweatshirt, just so that there's no question about what it is that he does for a living. And they mention it a few times in that first episode. Also, Perfect Strangers, now that you mention it, was part of the original lineup on
TGIF.
On TGIF.
Really?
It was something that I think I was really too young for at the time. I think shows in general that weren't cartoons, I sort of really had no interest in, when Perfect Strangers was a thing. And Perfect Strangers is not something that people, I think, have nearly as much, it's not nearly as iconic as something like Full House.
Right.
Family Matters.
No, it's not. It has listen, for sure it's a beloved show, but it's definitely not, it doesn't hold a candle to the juggernaut. I mean, I would say if we're talking prime time, family sitcoms, you have Full House, you have Family Matters, I guess Step by Step, definitely Boy Meets World. These were the shows of our youth, of our formative years. And what happened was the suits were like, yeah, let's build a show around the Winslows. And so really it's supposed to be a vehicle for mainly Carl and Harriet Winslow and their family of kids. However, what would happen is, but just by introducing one of many quirky characters, because Steve Urkel is far from the only quirky character on Family Matters, he became such a beloved character that the show started to center around him, much to the dismay of Harriet.
And I think this happened pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
And you can see why. Not to say that he completely steals the show, but it's very evident that he's a very talented actor, Jaleel White.
Yeah.
Now I
lot.
also want to mention, I'm thinking about it. I think maybe the reason why I was able to watch, say, Family Matters or Full House, but not so much Perfect Strangers, I don't know if Perfect Strangers had any real kid characters. I think it was really about like two adults, right?
It was harder to connect to. Steve Urkel is instantaneously easy to connect to because he's not only like a kid, but he's like this goofy. He's fun to impersonate. You know, I think that's the center of his appeal. Besides being hilarious, it's fun to quote and imitate Steve Urkel. You know, and his catchphrases. Did I do that? Got any cheese? You know, like it's fun to do. Even my 4-year-old son. So as I was watching for this show, my 4.5-year-old son walked by and saw Steve Urkel coming out of a bathroom with a duck. And he thought it was the fucking funniest thing in the world. And he would not stop quoting Steve Urkel. This is a kid that's born, you know, almost 35 years after the show aired. You know, so the staying power is mighty.
You know, the thing is that all right, well, so let's start from the beginning, right? Let's talk about episode 1 for a moment.
Well, hold on, before you even get there. Before you get there, I just want to make sure I'm being thorough about this. So Family Matters ran for 9 seasons. After season 7, they jumped ship to CBS, the CBS network, and continued on. They limped on for 2 more seasons, and by that time, Carl and Steve were the center of the show. And Harriet, in the last season, only appears. She was already, her contract was up, and that actress whose name I can't pronounce, that Jeremy just said, that Spice just said before, she decided to leave, but allowed stayed for half of the season, just for continuital purposes. And then Harriet was actually recast. So much like Aunt Viv on Fresh Prince, we had a second lesser Harriet for 0.5 of a season in season 9. And then the show just died. They were hoping for a 10th season, but the show died in season 9. But by the end, there was so much crazy stuff, and I can't wait to get there. But I got to tell you, and Jeremy, Spice and I were talking, we were like, oh man, we got to slog through season 1. But here's what we ended up finding. As we're watching, we're realizing that the show, even before Steve Urkel shows up, there's so much going on in this show. It's so great, even without Steve. Yeah. Why don't you take it from there, Jeremy? Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, like by season 7, you know, maybe even 6, it was just something that I was watching by default because it kicked off TGIF.
Right.
And, you know, it was kind of, I almost had like a captive audience in the form of like being on TGIF, right? I was going to watch TGIF, and so that show was on, and I sort of like just watched it because it was on before Boy Meets World. Now, I am a huge Boy Meets World fan, but, you know, by the end, 6 or 7, the only reason I was watching it is because it was part of that lineup. Now, season 8, it's on CBS. I don't think anyone was like, all right, Family Matters is on tonight. Let's go tune in and watch that, you know? And I think Rare was the person who caught those last 2 seasons. And I've seen a few episodes from those seasons here and there, like in recent years on like, you know, I think on MTV2 or on the Family Channel or whatever, they sort of will play through shows like this or Boy Meets World during, you know, daytime television. And I used to work weird hours, so I would, you know, everything else on TV sucks, right?
Right.
New reality TV bullshit.
Right.
So I would tune into, you know, MTV2 and watch whatever episode of Family Matters was on. And so that was kind of the only experience I ever watched of these 8th and 9th seasons, you know, and it's fucking surreal, you know, and it was probably surreal back then, but, you know, even more so now, you know, I was like in my late 20s and just flipping around and I'm like, oh, Family Matters, this is good. And I'm like seeing this bizarre show that is so different from the Family Matters of yore, you know, that I grew up with. Right.
It's just a different beast. I'm kind of
curious when we get to those last 2 seasons that, you know, pretty much I'm basically unseen, right? Because who the fuck was, like, you know, we were watching it because it was on TGIF. Once you remove TGIF from the equation, no one was fucking tuning into that shit. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I wasn't, and I'm the only person.
Let's touch on TGIF just a little bit more too. I just want to say that, you know, because we were talking about this earlier. Yeah, TGIF was event. It was event like appointment viewing, but so it was an extension of, too, if you're like a 90s kid like Spice and I, we grew up on Snick as well, and that was the other big thing. It's like Friday is TGIF and Saturday is Snick. And it's like what do you do in the 90s when you're like a kid that's like under 10 years old, or maybe 11, 12, whatever, and like, you go over, have a sleepover, or you're just like at home on a Friday or Saturday night, you're gonna watch these blocks, and they were like the opiate of the kid masses. It's like you tune in, you plug in, and you tune out, and just enjoy it until 10 o'clock when it all ends.
And I don't think that this sentiment that I'm about to express is just coming from my own nostalgia factor, but I think there's actual empirical evidence to support what I'm about to say. And like I said, I did some Wikipedia research or whatever, but like I don't think that there was anything like it before or since. And that's not just because I have fond memories of it, being a kid growing up with it, but I think the numbers were there to support that notion as well. I think that it was something that the Stoots at ABC were kind of formulating and sort of like theorizing about having that kind of block entertainment on a Friday night for a number of years before it actually took off. And I think that the results were actually above and beyond any of their expectations or projections. There's also, I don't know exactly when it happened, but ABC was bought by Disney at some point in the 90s. So I remember whenever there was, like I said, there was a lot of shows that came up and, maybe died, and a lot of blocks that were sort of morphing throughout the years, and sometimes even mid-season.
Right.
Which was something that happened a lot on network TV in the 90s. There'd be a break, and then they'd do different things, and everything was very beholden to this rating system. And so, they do these different experiments and, try this show out or that show out. And sometimes when they had an available block, they would have, actor X, promoting Pocahontas or whatever the new Disney movie was,
right.
What I mean? Or they have
right.
this actor who's at Disney World, promoting some Disney thing. And then I remember very specifically, in between each show, they usually would have actors, so I feel like maybe it was even like Bill and Ted one time or something like that, where they have these actors, being like, oh, make sure you stick around for after the commercials because, Steve is going to do this. And I remember when they were pushing Boy Meets World hadn't even come out yet. And I think not Sean, maybe Sean, but definitely Corey Matthews was sitting in his backyard, on the back porch that kind of was shared with Mr. Feeney. And they were like,
sorry.
Yes, they were kind of introducing each show that came on, and also don't forget to check out this zany new show that has the kid with the curly hair whose teacher lives next door, next season or whatever. So
I'm sorry, I just have to touch on one thing because we talked about this the other day in relation to Boy Meets World. There were two types of Boy Meets World episodes. It was either a Corey Loves Topanga episode, or it was a Sean, I'm trailer trash, I can't be friends with you, Corey episode, where Sean would just be like, Corey, I don't belong here, I'm trailer trash, and I gotta go find my dad who's looking for my mom,
Well, here's the thing. I think you're absolutely right about that, but at the very, very bottom of the show, there was really only one kind of episode, and that kind of episode was Spice Loves Topanga episodes.
Right. Yeah, you loved her, man. And then later, Sean got his girlfriend, and Eric got his girlfriend.
Angela. Then there was the redheaded bombshell, Rachel.
Right. Yeah. That's a whole nother universe. Let's we'll push that to the side. So anyway, Family Matters. Go ahead. Let's dive in, man. Let's do this. So we watched the first 12 episodes.
Yes,
of season 1. Yeah.
Let's talk for a second. Not we don't have to dive into the entire first episode, But let me tell you what I got from it. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. It sets up the family dynamic, right?
Right.
So one of the first things you see is Judy and Laura, right?
Right.
There's this sister dynamic between the two of them, which I think is
great
really
sistoral chemistry. It's really great sistoral chemistry, and it makes me sad because the other thing we didn't talk about real quick is that some of these characters, in our overview of the whole series, is that some of these characters just inexplicably disappear. For a while, Mama Winslow disappears for a little bit. Rachel, Harriet's sister, comes and goes. Richie comes and goes, and Judy straight up vanishes. And I didn't tell you my theory about that. We'll get there. Sorry, go ahead.
Another thing worth pointing out is that this was something that was not too unusual on TV sitcoms. Like I said before.
Yeah, Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. Everything was very beholden to these ratings. I remember I used to watch this show. I think it was on WB11 with Face on Love and what was the guy's name? The guy from Meteor Man. Townsend.
The main Meteor Man guy?
Yeah.
Robert Mitchell something. Oh, I know what show.
Robert Townsend. Townsend.
Yeah, Robert Townsend. Yeah, I know what show you're talking about.
And, there was the neighbor. Originally, there was Mrs. Wilcox and then Wendell Wilcox, played by the fucking enormously talented Face on Love. And then they phased out his mother, Mrs. Wilcox. And then they had some other neighbor who used to come around and sort of bust their chops. And so there was a lot of these characters who just be inexplicably written off because it worked or it didn't work.
Right.
And, even as late as, that 70s show, you had, Eric, who's the main character, whose basement they're always hanging out at, he went to Africa.
Right. And then they're just all hanging out there anyway, right?
And now this random guy who's fucking Eric's girlfriend is hanging out with all of them in Eric's basement. So realism was not important. But so also Judy, first episode, we have a totally different actress playing Judy.
Right, in the pilot, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know why they got rid of her from the pilot. I don't see... I think her name was Valerie Johnson. Valerie something. She
was not good, man. She was just not good. She didn't have the chemistry that Jamie Foxworthy did.
Jamie Foxworthy. I didn't find her to be any better or worse.
Really?
Yeah, I think, but that's neither here nor there, because they didn't give her much.
Uh-oh. Spice, come in.
It's going to be a sort of
there you go.
Sibling rivalry between the two sisters, right?
Yeah.
Then there's going to be Eddie, who is, at least in this first episode, he's, adolescent, right?
She's in 7th grade. Laura's in 7th grade, and Eddie is 15 years old. Ah, shit, you froze again. Fuck.
To sleep over and watch a Rambo marathon till 2 o'clock. Which is
Take it back. We lost you. You froze up. So yeah, what you said was when you froze up is that Eddie asked Carl if he could go and watch a Rambo marathon till 2 a.m. at his friend's house, and Carl was like, "Fuck no," because your curfew is 10 o'clock.
Am I still frozen?
No, you're not frozen. I just was filling in case nobody heard that. Go ahead.
Cool. Thank you. So yeah, I love me. Fucking huge fan of Stallone. And so we're already off to a good start, right? Because we got Rambo being mentioned in the first episode of this show. So kudos to the writers for putting Rambo in there. And that just shows kind of the kind of kid that Eddie is, He wants to stay out late. He wants these freedoms. It's, pretty stereotypical of what a 15-year-old boy is supposed to be, right? And sort of the pushback between him and his father, right? He's going to be, natural.
Now, Carl is not really developed. What's funny, we were talking, and listen, I don't think for time's sake, we're not going to be able to go from episode to episode. We're going to have to just sort of jump within these 12 episodes. So we'll talk about things. We can move on. Keep whatever comes up, just go. But if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to be, we'll be here all night.
No, I'm not suggesting that we should do that. I
Okay.
think that it's important to set the precedent, though, for, in this first episode,
True.
what we're getting a look at and what they're trying to sell us, basically.
Okay, so based on what you just said just there, Carl is not developed yet. He doesn't come in. He does not. We don't get to see the Carl that we would know and love until episode 5-ish. And what would you say, Spice? What is Carl's personality? His signature personality?
Well, I think right off the bat we get that he wants things his way, right?
Yeah. He's a macho man.
He doesn't want his mom sitting in his chair.
Oh, that's right. Because Mama. Okay, so Mama Winslow. So Mama Winslow's husband, Sam Winslow, who is also a cop on the force, has passed away, and so she's come to live with her son Carl and his family, along with Rachel, who is Harriet's sister. Her husband Robert also passed away, and she has a baby named Richie.
I think they killed each other. I think Rachel's husband was a car thief.
You're right.
And
that's right.
Sam Winslow was a cop.
That's right.
They killed each other.
It was a shootout.
There was a shootout.
Although I got to tell you, as I was watching these 12 episodes, there were certain, just in the way that you were joking that Steve's dad was a meth chemist and like ran a trap house and stuff. Yeah. I truly think that because I think what we're gonna have to do some. Clearly, we're gonna do some deep diving on a lot of different things, and I know that like America's first black family is the Cosbys, but this white Jewish boy really never gravitated towards them ever. It was all about the Winslows for me. And the Winslows, to me, are the most important sitcom family more than any other sitcom family. They are the centerpiece of my heart when I think about TGIF and everything. So, there's a lot that goes on in the show, but then there's also the underlying subtext. And two things I'd like to bring to the table here is one, first question number one, I think Carl is definitely a down low brother. And for those who don't know what a down low brother is, a down low brother is a gentleman, usually in the African American community, who has sex with men on the side, but if you ask him if he's gay, he says, no, I'm 100% straight. I just like to bang guys on the side. And so what they do is they go out and they have sex with men, and they come home to their wives and their children. They're always married and they always have kids. And it's just known as being on the down low. And I think that Carl swings both ways for sure. I think Carl, he's like such a sensitive man with a flourish for fashion, and he, his ideas of romance, and he's always striving to sort of replicate like whatever like he thinks like classic macho masculine, like masculine energy should be for his family unit. And let me tell you, Carl is a man of great integrity. I really love Carl. I think he's great. But I think
you're right on the money.
Yeah. I just think that he on the side when he comes home to Harriet and gives her a kiss on the cheek, because he never kisses her square on the mouth. He always gives her a peck on the side, even when they're trying to be romantic with each other. I just think that Carl's got something else going on, or maybe if he's, again, I'm going to get a little dirty here for a minute, but let's say that, if he's giving a gentleman pleasure, perhaps Harriet doesn't want to come home and be like, I don't want to kiss the taste of another man in your mouth, and she's just like, so she says, peck, give me a peck on the side. And you know what? Like, I get that. Like, family dynamics are complicated. And people do their things that they do. And so I think Carl has something going on here. And the other thing I wanted to say is, we talk about how Judy leaves halfway through the series, and we know the real reason is because the actress asked for more money and was just simply written off the show. They were just like, fuck you, we're writing you off the show. However, what if, and this is a theory I pose to you, Spice, what if, in fact, Judy actually died in some violent, traumatic way that was so damaging to the family's psyche that they simply do not talk about her? They simply pretend that she does not exist, and they bury their trauma. It's the one subject that can never be named or talked about, and that is the That is the in-story explanation for why Judy is no longer ever mentioned or seen on the show. She died. Maybe she died of cancer, or she got hit by a car, or she was kidnapped and killed in some brutal fashion. And the subject is so heavy that the Winslows simply do not have it in their gumption to. They scrubbed the house of photos. She's gone. She's gone from existence because it's too painful for them to unpack those memories.
So this is. It's kind of funny that you say that, because I had an experience like that in real life, kind of.
Whoa.
So, I have a niece and nephew. They are 4 and 6, respectively. And my brother and his family, they had a dog.
Oh my God.
And so my mom, the dog's name was Cookie, right? And so my mom just told me this story, right? And so my mom, said something about, my mom was just telling me this story, and she says, she said to her grandchildren, my niece and nephew, like, oh, how's Cookie or something? And they looked at her and, like, almost simultaneously were like, Cookie's dead. and
Jesus.
Just like dropped it. Like it was like this thing that like they're not supposed to talk about, but just like Cookie's dead. And like just that's it.
Yikes. Yikes. So
Matt, I'm sorry for it, I don't know what happened with Cookie.
Sorry to hear about that, Matt.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. But it was so anyway.
Cookie.
So, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Cookie. But yeah, it's just like, look, it's just like clearly there's some underlying subtext here on the show. Is all I'm trying to say.
Definitely, he was definitely a down low brother. I hadn't thought about that, but you're so true, because you're so accurate with that, because if we flash forward to episode, I think it's 9 or 10. 9. The stakeout. He's at like Louis' love grotto with, at first, like, you see these things with Carl where, like, there's definitely, like, usually there's some sexual implication in these shows.
Right.
Sitcoms where, the kids are out of the house.
Yeah. Let's run upstairs.
And they don't have to really be like, what's the word? They don't have to be explicit about it, but you kind of know that that's what's going on. And,
right.
There's an episode like that here that happens, and like, you're like, oh,
right, when Rachel's first date.
Yeah, Rachel's first date.
They're going to. Sorry, go ahead. Go talk.
And they're, because they don't get even like a little bit implicitly sexual with it. I assume that it's because it's a family show, right? But later on, there's this episode of The Stakeout. They definitely make some sexual innuendo. So it's not that it's a family show. It's the fact that Carl was not really interested in sex with Harriet, and the reason that I can corroborate that with in that episode, The Stakeout. Carl is at Louis' love grotto with this fucking knockout woman, and he doesn't bat an eyelash yet. He is not at all interested, not even a little bit.
But the crux of hold on a second. Two things. One, first of all, the crux of, I think you're giving a bad example, and I think the better example is Rachel's first date. The crux of the Stakeout episode is that Carl is faithful to his wife, Harriet. And he explicitly states that over and over again. The whole theme of that show is trust your husband, yes. and yada, yada, yada. And so, of course, Carl is not going to be into her. But Carl has if I had to describe Carl's sexuality based on this theory, it's this. Carl obviously occasionally, goes to sleeps with Harriet physically, but their relationship is more emotionally platonic than it is physical. Carl gets physical intimacy from men and gets emotional intimacy from Harriet. It's like as if maybe perhaps he married Harriet when he was younger, realized that he also liked men, but loved Harriet so much and didn't want to leave her. He didn't want to, like, break up their marriage and break up the household with the kids. So they've worked out this sort of situation where, that sort of can go down. So of course, Carl's not going to bat an eyelash at his foxy ass new partner. However, in the episode Rachel's First Date, Carl is incredibly excited about taking Harriet to go to a movie and a fine restaurant. And he's super duper giddy and excited about this idea of romance. As if, and I can tell you and again, this is just my experience. And like, I guess there are married people out there that would be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But like, it's just like all those things, like watching a movie and eating dinner. Like, obviously there's reasons why you go out to do it, so you can feel like you're on a date and everything away from the kids. But it's also kind of like you can be intimate and romantic with your wife at home, eating dinner and watching a movie. There's just this thing about like him getting all dressed up. And then eventually later on in the episode, they're alone on the swing in the back. And Carl's idea of intimacy with Harriet is not to kiss her. He just wants to hug her and he puts his head on her shoulder and just like relaxes with her. And it's not something that like, that's not criteria for being gay or bisexual or down low, but it's just like, it just adds to this idea that like Carl is just he's not a man of carnal pleasure. He's not a man that is simply about the flesh. His ideas of love and intimacy are loftier. And what he has with Harriet is so deep. It's deep, and I feel like it's kind of platonic and deeply, deeply emotional.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think where he gets his animal pleasure is from eating.
Yeah, now, you mean his Bacchial sort of hedonistic, excessive pleasure.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that it is, he's not really that fat in this first season. Right?
No, not really at all. No,
he's husky, but
they treat him like he is.
They set the precedent real early that there's going to be fat jokes about it.
Right.
And that's going to be the joke, like fat and cheap, right? It's kind of like, for example, with Carlton, right? In The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Is Carlton cheap?
Huh?
Is Carlton cheap?
No. I'm saying, like, with Carlton, the joke that Will always makes is that he's short.
Right.
The amount of short jokes, it's like it's lazy, is what it is, because
right.
They decided, all right, we can always make a short joke at the expense of Carlton, and I feel like that's kind of what they did with Carl. Is we can always make a fat joke at the expense of Carl, and the style of humor in this show is interesting. I think there's I have it in one thing that I really took notice of is that there's this idea of humor in a lot of 90s sitcoms, which I call like contradiction humor, right? In an episode where Rachel is writing a short story that gets published.
Yeah, short story.
Yeah. She writes this short story that ostensibly is not written about, the people that she's living with, but everyone feels that it is written about them, and it seems pretty evident that it is about them. And so, she sort of makes these assertions about each character, that Judy, for example, whines, right? And that, Harriet is pushy. And what happens is when these characters are denying these attributes, they are proving them to be exactly correct. Judy is saying, I don't whine. Why do you say that I whine?
Right. They're actually playing into the stereotypes that Rachel's writing about.
Yeah, and it's such a cheap and easy joke, and I think it's something that happens a lot in sitcoms where someone is in denial about something and in doing so is illustrating the exact same thing that they're in denial about.
Right, right.
Well, and it's like, it's something that it's just like, you know, it seems like a cheap laugh, you know, and
as they say, it's low hanging fruit.
It's low hanging fruit, and it's the type of thing that, unfortunately, because of the writing on this show, that could have maybe doomed this show to an early demise or an untimely demise, had it not been, you know, rescued or ruined, depending on how you feel about, you know, the Earthman.
Right.
Halfway through the first season, but you know what I wasn't surprised about that. I feel like I wasn't surprised watching these first 12 episodes that, you know, the writing was not really stand out, and that it was kind of standard fare for the time.
That's what those were standard. You're absolutely right. They're standard sitcom episodes. However, the family, like, you know, to flip to the flip side of what you're saying, and you're the one who really highlighted it to me. You're the one who took notice of the acting, the performances that the family is giving. And I took note of the chemistry between Laura and Judy as sisters in the house is phenomenal. And I'll tell you, you know who, you know, obviously Harriet, you know, I'm seeing Harriet in a brand new light that I've never seen before. But you know who really was like who's really the standout for me, or one of the funnest, a true fun aspect of the show, is Estelle Winslow. Mama Winslow is excellent, and she's 75 when the show begins, and you know she's to me she's a widow. She's widowed, and she has 5 children, one of them being Carl, and she's just like living her best life in her senior years, and I just feel like. I just feel like she's just such a shining example. In one of the last episodes, in episode, I think 12 or 11, it was 11, the quilt episode, she's going to sleep over at her friend's house. You know, all of her girlfriends who are all geezers, and there's a joke about how someone lost something and it turned out to be their teeth. And it's just like, she's a wild mama. And in the stakeout episode, Ken Foree of Dawn of the Dead fame, which was such a wonderful treat. That's going to happen to us a lot. We're going to be watching these episodes, and people are just going to pop up, and you're going to be like, oh my God, it's Ken Foree. And Ken Foree gets judo flipped by Mama Winslow on the stakeout. Excellent.
Let me stop you right there. Because,
go ahead.
You know, you said that probably was going to happen. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I sort of skipped ahead to, you know, to watch 30 seconds from an episode of season 7. And, you know, 30 seconds or so from an episode of, I think, season 4 or 3. And already I've seen 2 of these people. I saw Fred Willard.
Oh, no, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't. I want to be surprised. Don't tell me.
But just from these 2 random episodes, I saw 2 great little cameos already. So you're absolutely right about that.
Excellent.
Get back to Estelle. First of all, there's so much to unpack here with her, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Take me through.
With the first episode, it looks like they are going to paint her as being a pushy, sort of set in her ways,
right?
Sort of, you know, and that there's going to be a conflict between her and Carl, and there is in the pilot.
And she lived through the Depression. She makes them a Depression dinner which is turnips and bacon, but she just used the drippings because she knew she could get another meal out of that meat.
And I just want to say that fucking turnips.
Delicious.
Mashed turnips with bacon drippings.
Hell yeah.
Sounds like my fucking wet treat.
Yeah.
But listen, so yeah, she, you know, it seems like there's going to be conflict. She's sitting in Carl's chair or whatever, and there is conflict for that episode, and then that's it. For the rest of the show, basically, you're right. She's what did you say? She's a fun mama. She's a tough mama. She's
just living her best. She's
living her best life.
Yeah.
I love that fucking jujitsu throw that she did.
It was excellent.
And then here's the thing about
and when they all come in one after another and they go, you cheap hussy, and then she comes in at the end. She goes, hussy.
She's so powerful. She's such a strong character, and she's such a strong actor because a lot of her humor relies on these one-line comebacks. And the thing about these one-line comebacks is the timing.
Yeah, the delivery.
The delivery and the timing is so clutch because some of them would not be really funny but the way she fucking says them gets a laugh out of me every time, right? So it's really a testament to her acting prowess, right? Then the other thing about her is everyone, you know, even though it's been established that her name is Estelle, 9 out of 10 times they call her Mama Winslow or Mother Winslow.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in one of the later episodes that we watched, right? You know, so towards the you know, and you know, say episode 10 or 11. Actually, it was episode 10. They're meeting Buddy Goodrich, who is the all-American, the sitcom dad that they all are obsessed with. And this episode is a great highlight of.
It's very meta. It's a meta episode because they're making fun of the very. And you want to know what though? Like this is the '90s version of a sitcom, and what they're sort of making fun of in their meta sort of way is like the '80s or the '70s version of the sitcom. You know.
Yes. So, but here's what happens, and I love this because, that's crazy. I think I just called my dad by accident. Hold on a second. Yeah, can you talk for a second, all right?
Okay, sure. So anyway, what happens in this episode that's really, really, really great is, yeah, so the Buddy Good Guy show, this episode really, really made me fall in love with Carl because, you know, Carl, this is the episode where we see that Carl is a man of integrity and principles. And it's just like, it's fascinating to hear how he, Jeremy, are you on mute or can you hear me?
I'm back.
Okay. All right. So Buddy, the Buddy episode's is an episode that made me really fall in love with Carl because it made me fall in love with his integrity. And, you know,
let me hold you for a second. Let me hold you for 1 second because I want to get into that. I got to finish with Estelle from that episode.
Okay, go ahead, sure.
Because before I don't want to. So she is being introduced by Harriet. Buddy comes into the house, and Harriet's like, "Oh, you know, this is my daughter, Laura Winslow. This is my son, Eddie Winslow. This is my mother-in-law, Mrs. Winslow." And it's like, dude, she has a name. We've already established what her name is. But for some reason, she's being introduced as Mrs. Winslow, and I just fucking love that. Because they're always calling her Mother Winslow or this is Mrs. Winslow, but like, you know, she's Estelle Winslow, and it's not as if it just seems weird that was written into the script as and this is my mother-in-law, Mrs. Winslow.
Yeah,
like I love that. So, but yes, back to the Buddy Goodrich episode. Take it away because it is a perfect fucking highlight of Carl's fucking moral fucking.
He's integrity. It's integrity. He has such principles, you know, and obviously we're watching a sitcom. What are sitcoms all about? They're situational comedies. What are the situations? The situations are always meant to be life lessons that teach the audience, mainly the kids that are watching, some valuable life lesson. But the ones in Family Matters, at least in these first 12 episodes, are pretty solid lessons. And I really, as a parent, as an adult watching this show, I really took them to heart, especially this episode of Integrity where Carl is getting pushed around by this very famous star whose ego is so out of control. He is just treating Carl like garbage, and Carl keeps his cool the whole time until Buddy shoves him for a second time. And that's when Carl finally, you know, turns off the nice guy routine and does his duty. And it's like, go ahead.
He doesn't take the bribe. He doesn't take the bribe later.
Right.
You know, and it really shows what a great upstanding person he is, even though despite the fact that Carl is kind of like he's kind of the punching bag on this show.
Yeah, a bit.
He kind of, you know, he is a cheapskate. He loves to eat donuts. He's kind of a chauvinist.
But the chauvinism is such a facade. He wants to be a chauvinist. He can't see deep down inside. He's such a soft, cuddly, fuzzy man that you just want to snuggle with on a couch and like eat popcorn and watch a movie.
So it's not so much chauvinism, but it's also
a false sense. It's a false sense of masculinity. That's what it is.
There's also pigheadedness where he
right. Yes,
he's got to be right, you know, and he will not listen to anyone else, no matter how much sense they make.
1, 2, 3. What the heck is bothering me?
Now and kind of like highlights to me, this is something that was going on in the 90s, is like the men are incompetent, they are stubborn, you know, men never want to ask for directions, men can never admit when they're wrong,
right?
Men are always so sure they're right, and it's the strong female characters who are always there to fucking put them in their place, and fucking Harriet is perfect at that.
Harriet, sweet Harriet.
And so is Laura. Laura, I think what happened to Judy's character is that Judy, her whole character was predicated on the interplay between her and her older sister, Laura. But I think Laura was such a fucking capable character and such a capable actress.
Interesting theory.
That she was able to sort of be like this breath of fresh air as far as like, you know, like get real stupid.
Right.
To whoever she interacted with. So I think her relationship became more an interplay between her and Eddie. And then once you have that, you kind of have this younger Judy character that didn't really have any place. You know?
So maybe she didn't die violently. Maybe what happened was she straight up got Back to the Future, where she just slowly started to fade away out of the pictures.
Faded away. Yeah, she faded away out of the picture because Laura was, you know, I think they were kind of written, and I think they were written as a duo.
Yes, they were.
And I think Laura was probably better than everyone expected, and they realized that they didn't have to have this sort of quibbling sister dynamic. Laura was able to stand on her own 2 feet.
Especially when that younger sister asked for more money.
Yes, exactly. And so what they did was they took her and they sold her to Urkel's dad, who not only was a meth cook, but also was running a prostitution ring. And, you know, they got rid of her. They gave her to Mr. Urkel.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty like, you know, and we're going to speculate further as we learn more about Steve's parents. You know, when we first meet Steve, he mentions that he can't go home until 10 o'clock because that's when he told his parents he would be out. They said, do not come back before 10 o'clock. And who knows what Steve's parents were up to, what nefarious things they were doing in the house while Steve was away. But before we get there, hold on, let's just make sure we're being very thorough. Let's touch a little bit on Rachel here. So Rachel is the sister, and she's Harriet's sister. She has she's also recently widowed. And I mean, that's what Carl does. Carl has a big heart. And what he does, he takes in Mama Winslow and he takes in Rachel when she loses her husband. And what's really sad is that, you know, baby Richie's about 9 months old when the series starts. So you have to think that Robert, you know, her husband, you know, he died very, very recently. And Rachel has been, you know, and Rachel is a pretty strong woman herself in the fact that, you know, she's just doing her best as a single mom. You know, she has a fluffy, you know, airy personality, and she's incredibly talented. She's a short story writer. She knows how to play saxophone badly. She's also a mechanic, and she loves baking, and she also can sew.
So it's funny that you called her personality fluffy, because it turns out that she actually one of her many talents is that she's a very talented fluffer as well. Is one of the her career choices that she had before she became a writer and later a restaurateur. But we'll get into that when
That's right. She had Rachel's Place. Holy crap! You're blowing my mind.
Ahead of its time, she was cooking brioche.
That's right. And those brioche, they look good. They look good.
Who the hell even heard of brioche in 1989?
I don't know, but Eddie was on the up and up. Eddie was ahead of the curve because he took out a tub of ice cream and smothered on the brioche on top of the ice cream on top of the brioche. And yeah, that's a great example too of Carl. You know, Carl always wants the best for his son. And, you know, he's not really concerned about Laura because she gets straight A's, but he always is trying to push Eddie to greatness. When he thinks he gets straight A's, he buys him a computer system with a working modem, and a color screen, in hopes that Eddie is going to be the smartest kid in the world, and also fuels him to play basketball because he thinks that Eddie's only chance for success is to play basketball. And so he works Eddie really, really, really hard.
You know, it's interesting because Eddie's whole character really, besides, you know, he's going to do whatever he can to chase after ladies, right? Because,
yeah, Eddie's all about the ladies, you know?
He's all about the ladies, but he's also kind of a dummy, right? You know?
He's ditzy now, but I want to see if he smartens up later, like a reverse of Eric from Boy Meets World.
Well, I think he does. Because I think these sort of gap moments he has, they ended up creating a character.
Yeah, Waldo Faldo becomes that. They can't have both of them be dunces, you know?
I feel like it's like a part of Eddie's personality, like leaked out of his ear and came grew its own form of Waldo Earl. I
think what we've uncovered is this universe where people can absorb other people. So Judy gets absorbed by Laura, and Eddie distills his doofiness into Walt. It's kind of like Majin Buu from fucking Dragon Ball Z. He splits into two different. Waldo Faldo is an extension of Eddie's subconsciously goofy self, his goofy self. And then once he's purged himself of the goofiness, Eddie becomes a suave guy, and Waldo Faldo turns into the goofy aspect of Eddie's character.
Yeah. Now, to get back to Rachel for a moment,
right?
She, I think, she's like the Joey Gladstone of this family.
Very much.
He's also kind of like the Roger of American Dad. You know what I mean? There's got to be that one character who's sort of a comic relief, just sort of free spirit, you know. She's loopy.
She's
loopy, and I think part of the reason why she became less important as the show progressed is because we had another loopy character in Steve Urkel, you know. Now Rachel is great because she's always got she's always on some weird quest to do something silly, you know, and
right.
That's kind of it's definitely like a trope of the 90s sitcom, or probably even till today, you know.
Well, she was the goofiness. I mean, listen, she's the goofiness of the show before Steve comes. Who else is a goofy character? I think you were the one who said that. You said that.
And I love the fact that there's so much of, you know, Carl having a crazy idea, you know. Carl wants everyone to turn the water off to save money. Or
right.
Carl wants to make this shower on his own, or Carl wants Eddie to be the best basketball player. And you need a strong fucking female character like Harriet to put her hands on her hips.
Right. Carl!
Her head kind of going and just be like, Carl! And there's so much of that. And it happens from Harriet. It happens from Mama Winslow. It happens from Laura.
Harriet's the most sensible of them all. She's truly the anchor. Even though Carl obviously has a moral compass, Harriet also is she's probably the most sensible anchor of the entire family. She grounds everybody.
By far. Her and I think that's why Laura is such a good mini-me to her.
Right.
Laura is the exact same.
She's Harriet. She is the daughter. Laura is Harriet's daughter. For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now that we kind of have the whole dynamic of all the characters and stuff, there's just some little factoids that I want to mention.
Go ahead. Really Let's dive into the little minutia details before we get to Steve Urkel. We'll land the plane with the introduction of Steve Urkel. That's what we'll do.
Yeah, so
okay, go ahead.
Midway through episode 6, we get our first broken window, which anyone who's watched this show knows that there's a lot more of that to come.
That's the shower episode.
I'm not sure.
No, it's the brioche. The brioche is the first time.
And I think that's in episode 6. In the shower episode though, Carl he steps in a bucket.
Yep.
And then he like wigs out for a second.
That's the first. That's the first time we see physical comedy.
The physical comedy, and he's so much less good at it than Steve is. You know,
he's the best. Steve is the best.
Another thing I noticed is, you know, we have this. There's an episode where they're up in Eddie's room, and they're really hammering it home that this show takes place in Chicago. It's fucking unbelievable how many, you know, Cubs pennants.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got the Michael Jordan cutout, and you got the Bears.
Well, even just the intro. The intro has them going across the Chicago River. I mean, I used to live. Yeah. I lived in Chicago for 3 years, and I can. Yeah. You feel the Chicago-ness.
They on really fucking thick.
And I love that. I love that they do that.
It's so thick. You know, another thing that's, you know, just something random. You know, the baby, because of child labor laws,
twins.
By twins. So we have Joseph and Julius Wright. Now, if these two guys had just played their fucking cards right, they could have been billionaires like fucking the Olsen twins, and then ended up with eating disorders just like the Olsen twins did. But instead, you can't even find anything about them online. If you Google Richie Crawford, all you find is the kid who later played him.
The classic Richie. Classic Richie.
Classic Richie with the Jerry curl and the Michael Jackson dancing and everything. You know, you don't get any of that from these kids. It actually took me a while to find their names because they just didn't play their cards right like the Olsen twins did.
Damn.
Fucking missed opportunity. They're probably fucking eating themselves up over it right now. So, you know, another thing I want to mention very quickly that really made me win this over, you know, Frumess, if there's anything you know about me, there's two things. I'm a huge Stallone fan, so major point with the Rambo references.
Right.
And then, you know, Rachel was stoked in episode 4. She wanted to watch, she saw that Elephant Man was on TV.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, you know, when Carl was back from his date with Harriet, from his date with Harriet and also Rachel, because she decided to tag along, you know, and he thinks he's finally going to have some time to just watch TV with Harriet and put his head on her shoulder.
Yeah.
Whatever it is a low-down brother looks forward to doing with his fucking platonic wife. Rachel walks over, turns the TV on next to them, like gets under Carl's legs, like puts Carl's legs on her lap, and turns the TV on, and is like, "Ooh, Elephant Man is on." And so I love that in the first fucking 12 episodes of the show, we get Stallone and David Lynch, and I'm fucking totally sold on the show if I wasn't already.
Oh man, could you imagine if there was a David Lynch directed Stallone movie?
Oh my god.
That'd be crazy. That's enough. We'll have to reminisce. We'll have to chew the fat on that one some other time.
Yeah.
But
well, let's get into episode 12.
Wait, real quick before you do, can we just just put some emphasis on how wonderful Carl is, and that how much how he gets intimate with his wife is just hugging and just he's just such a romantic. That's just what he's about.
And usually in shows like this, shows that even shows that are geared towards kids on network TV, there would still be a deep kiss and then a laugh track going. Ooh.
Right, and they never do. You never see them do. They just do it. It's just a peck on the cheek, man.
He gets a big grin on his face.
Yeah.
Kicks his legs up on the couch and puts his head on the... And it's great. So also, before we get into episode 12, very quickly, I gotta mention wardrobe. All right.
Yeah. You wanna go ahead? You take. I'm giving you the spotlight and the floor. Please talk to. Except for one thing. Don't forget to mention the shoulder pads. Go ahead. Go. Do your thing.
All right. So I didn't get to screenshot as many of these as I would have liked to do. I didn't realize I had the ability to do it until a little bit later on. Rachel's always got great outfits with the shoulder pads. You have all types of, the first 2 episodes, Mama Winslow is wearing some real you know, just everything is a little out there. You know, so I was able to get a couple, you know, two things that Eddie's wearing and one thing that Laura's wearing from episodes, I think maybe 10, 11, and 12. So I'm going to share the screen with you guys.
Please. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, you have Eddie here with this shirt that if you zoom in, you got some guys with...
It's Village People. I'm telling you, he's wearing a Village People shirt.
I think you might be right, because I see the Fu Manchu mustache. The guy here at the bottom where I'm using my... He kind of looks like one of these barkeeps from a saloon with the red suspenders and with the red suspenders and like the Fu Manchu mustache. This guy here's got the bandana around his neck. This looks like it might be an eye patch around a blank face that might be like... I don't really know what's going on there, but it's a cool shirt. And if I could ever get my hands on one of those, it's over, right?
Yeah.
Then we got... I don't really know what's going on with this shirt.
It's a weird shirt, man. Something really weird is going on with that shirt.
Something with the Southwest, I think.
It's just bizarre.
It's kind of got the colors of like, you know, you got that. It's something that might be like a decoration in like New Mexico or something. Kind of reminds me of like one of these things, like a I don't know, like they might have on the fence out by the pool on Breaking Bad or something like that.
Right,
you know,
right.
The coral and the like light blue like that. You
Yeah.
have these weird X's and squares, and then like I
Right.
don't even know, are these cows?
I guess it's hard for me to see them on. They're kind of small from what I'm.
Some kind of weird like Picasso looking cows. And then this one is my favorite.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would wear this every day if I had this shirt. It's like this weird sort of pixelated stick figure with his arms up, and then the mirror image of it, and it's like fucking turquoise and black, and it's like it's fucking awesome. I love that shirt.
You know what's amazing? What's amazing is watching the show now. Technically, what we're watching the 1989 season, so this is technically still the 80s, but even still,
You even say it's almost the 90s.
Right? Yeah, right. They're talking about how progressive things are. They're like, it's almost the 90s, Carl. But
it's not the 90s yet, so we're still going to patronize Eddie for wearing a dress.
Right, and yeah, Carl needs to have, and this was interesting because Eddie is wearing a dress, and it's like Carl is like, Eddie, we need to have a talk, as if there was anything wrong with wearing a dress. And I wonder if Carl is projecting his own fears about his complex sexuality onto Eddie, in the same way that he wants Eddie to be this thing that maybe he doesn't this box that he doesn't fit into himself. And that's why Carl is so hyper masculine, because he's trying to compensate for those other aspects of his down low brother, like ship that he's just trying to compensate for it all. And he just doesn't want the same for his son, even though there's nothing wrong with what he's, how he lives his life.
Yeah, you're almost right on the money about that, but this is my... Go
ahead. What's your take?
I think it's that he was jealous that his son looks better in a dress than he does.
Well, there might be a little bit of envy, however, and I wonder if there will be any cross-dressing episodes later on in the series featuring Carl. There's got to be. I can't think of any off the top of my head. However, it did just, just popped into my mind when they go to the Dragon's Lair and Carl is handcuffed to his partner and they have to swish back and forth as they, with their guns at the side. You know what I'm talking about? And they're swishing. Oh, when we get there, you're going to love it. It's great.
I remember that there's some cop episodes where he's kind of like in mortal danger, like where something gets serious, where there's a bomb and he's on the treadmill or something.
Yeah. It's it's so great.
Which is one of the things that's cool about it, him being a cop, is that like if they ever want to get serious and add an element of danger, it's not very far fetched for them to do so.
Yes, that's very true.
And they do it a couple times to my memory, to my recollection.
Is there anything else that we want to scrape before this show becomes all about Steve Urkel? Is there anything else we're trying to scrape at the bottom of the barrel? I think we were pretty thorough. We talked about we didn't hit every single episode, but if we ever need to remember something, we'll go back to it. Is there anything else that we're really missing that needs to be highlighted? We talked about every character. We talked about, I want to talk about Rodney for a second. And Rodney pops up again later in the season. Rodney's this punk-ass bitch motherfucker that comes over to the fucking Winslow house. He scares Harriet by having a fake hand, which is so rude to do to your friend's mother. And then he goes upstairs, and Eddie is studying. And he goes up to Eddie, says, Eddie, I don't feel good, and then sprays Eddie with silly string all over his room and makes such a mess. And, you know, Eddie joins in the fun, so I guess he co-signs it and it's okay. But I gotta tell you, if I was Eddie in that situation and that motherfucker came into my room and sprayed me with silly string while I was trying to study and got my hair all messy and everything, I would have beat the shit out of him. Just beat the living life out of him. He just seems like such a punk-ass bitch. And the other thing I want to say, relative to the episode with the quilts, first of all, is there anything that you want to talk about specifically with Laura's acting? Because I know that seems to be a...
There is. I just want to say, you know, and I mentioned this earlier, but I think I got off on a tangent about, you know, the acting on this show, right? The writing on this first season it's good. Right, but it's not good enough, I think, to carry the show. Right.
It would fizzle out if they didn't have Steve Urkel.
And thank God that the acting was so strong. I mentioned how Estelle's character was able to like carry these one-liners just with her timing and her delivery. Carl with his enthusiasm and his laughter and his sort of bravado, I think really carried his character. Harriet with her fucking attitude and her fucking, juxtaposition of Carl. I think the acting in general has been really good. And I think one of the standouts really for me was Laura. And just the way that she's able to call people on their shit in such a way that's really good. She, in
Very
episode
true.
12, which we haven't gotten to yet, she's really hurt by the fact that no one wants to like go to the dance with her. And it feels really real. And when I feel like she can fucking sass you just as hard as Harriet can.
So sassy.
She's so sassy, but then when she feels so bad that she sold this family heirloom to this fucking rich...
break it down. Break it down.
You know, she sold this family heirloom because, not only just the acting, but her character, like, she was fucking motivated. She's gonna fucking be a stone cold saleswoman, sell things at a strong markup to get this fucking VCR.
Well, hold on a second. Let's paint her for what she really is. She's a lady. So a lady comes to the Winslow. Laura is running a garage sale because she wants,
and she's doing it so well. She wants a VCR, right?
Right.
And
which was a pricey piece of tech at the time. I mean, it was no cheap business to have a VCR.
No, it wasn't. And the thing is this, right? She, my experience with having a tag sale, I did it once in my life. We did a co-tag sale with a friend down the street. We went over there. We didn't sell shit, and we ended up buying more stuff from the other family who was doing, because it's in my nature to collect things.
Yeah, it is.
Much shit, right? And so that...
Especially folded up pieces of paper.
Yes, exactly. And so, in this episode, they kind of get really realistic because Carl's like, oh, these are my old bell bottoms that I wore when I saw the movie Woodstock. And here's my fucking...
No, he says, when I saw Woodstock, and they were like, you were at Woodstock? And he's like, well, I saw the movie.
Yeah, and what that accentuates to me is that, he like, it's this shit that really has no real sentimental value.
Right.
It's just, and like this fucking...
But in the moment they get sentimental.
Yeah, exactly. And, I have trouble with that. And I think to a certain extent, a lot of us do. But fucking Laura, not only her as an actress, but her character is not only like, fuck you guys, we're selling this shit so that we can get this VCR.
Because someone's really going to want to come and buy bell bottoms. And this is at a time where thrift store junk is not like, like secondhand chic. It's like when it's junk. Like, yeah, we're going to go down and buy a pair of bell bottoms for a couple of bucks from someone's house,
But she's willing. My point is that she is willing to sacrifice this stuff that might be sentimental to other people in the family because she knows it's garbage. Because she's got a fucking sense of realism. She knows it's garbage. Laura is what's up, right? And so she also, gives Judy a little lecture about, markup. Like, oh no, that's not a fucking shirt, and that's not $1. That's like an island shirt or whatever, and it's $5.
Right. She's dressing up, and Rachel does the same thing when they're stuffing envelopes. She calls Judy and Laura like male engineers or something, and Laura says that's not a Hawaiian shirt. That is a what was it? Something, a leisure shirt of some kind.
This isn't vanilla ice cream. This is Madagascar vanilla bean.
Right, or this isn't a purple tie. This is luxury neckwear.
Exactly. So she's fucking motivated, right? She's willing to part with stuff that she knows that they don't need, even though everyone else in the family thinks they need it.
Right.
And she, and she makes a huge mistake.
Right.
She sells the one thing that Grandma doesn't want her to sell.
Right, which is a quilt.
Which is a quilt. It's a family heirloom, and Laura feels so bad that she fucked up.
Well, hold on 1 second. Wait. 1 second. I just want to pinch you for 1 second, because I just want to say, touch on the fact that Rachel pulls out a saxophone that was in the basement, and she made it sound like it had been there for a long time, but she had just moved into the house. So why did she find this old saxophone in the basement? It was super weird. Sorry, I just wanted to touch on that.
She was storing it with them, all right?
I guess. Fine.
The kind of life that Rachel fucking Crawford lives, you don't really always have a steady place to keep your stuff. So you leave your stuff in your sister's basement.
So wait, are you saying that Rachel lived a very sort of a life of sin, and then she met Robert and got settled down and found some stability, and then Robert died, and now she moved in with the Winslows with Richie?
I'm not really sure if she had any stability with Robert. We don't know much about Robert other than the fact that she was killed by Sam in a I'm not saying that she was, but we don't know anything about Robert. But she's a writer, right? Right. She's got her head in the clouds. She is. Her cooking is awful. But she has a knack for auto body work.
She's crafty. She's crafty.
She's crafty, and she's kind of a flower child. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit.
She was probably kind of, floated around from place to place.
Right, so she's like, hey, sis, hold on to my saxophone.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on. I have a caller on the line who claims to be a Family Matters expert, because I really want to talk about this episode, and then we can go into Steve and we'll land the plane. That is our pilot episode here. Real quick, Steven, you're on the air right now. This is my brother Steve, who was calling me as the show was going on and was begging to be on the show because he says he knows a lot about Family Matters.
Guys, this isn't true. I think he's exaggerating a little bit, but first and foremost, thank you guys for inviting me on your show. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, thank you for calling in. Steve,
absolutely.
Steve, tell me what's your 2 cents on Family Matters?
I'd like to clarify one other thing. I'm definitely not an expert in Family Matters. However, growing up in that time frame, I was an avid Family Matters watcher, and I'm fond of all of the cast, including Steve, Laura, Eddie, Waldo, Carl. I mean, these are just, big things for me, and I think I want to sing the theme song to start off this discussion in unison with you two, if you would be.
All right. We're going to sing it with you, but you're not going to be able to hear us singing it, so start singing it, and we'll sing along. Ready? 3, 1,
2,
1, go.
Whatever happened? Okay.
What happened? What happened? I thought you were going to sing the song.
In unison.
That's the Full House song.
Yeah, that's the Full House song. You weren't even singing it right.
Fuck you guys. I
It's a rare tradition in this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. Come on, sing it.
Frank,
We're waiting, dude. Come on.
Guys. I think I'm.
I think you're too self-conscious, little Steve.
I think we're just regressing from the conversation that we were trying to have.
Look. Listen. We're trying to unpack this stuff. Let me ask you a question. Give me your 2 cents on Family Matters. Give us a unique, fresh take, and then we're gonna move on with our show content. Go ahead. Give me a fresh take.
You mean as an overall, just
just anything. Throw in your 2 cents. Go ahead. Throw in your 2 cents. Go ahead.
No, I just think it's like a very endearing show that is, in a special place for many people that grew up during, from the mid-1980s through the mid-90s and just watching. Jeff, I feel like you're being a little condescending right now, and I just don't feel like you're taking this serious.
Listen, you know what we'd like to do? Listen, go home. Here's what we're going to do. Watch episodes 12 through 22 of season 1, and we will have you call in as a guest for our next episode, okay?
Listen, Steve,
absolutely.
All right?
Well,
Steve,
wait. Jeremy wants to... Hold on. Jeremy's... Wait. Jeremy wants to talk to you. Go ahead. Jeremy, go ahead.
Steve, we didn't just do this willy-nilly, okay? A lot of work and preparation went into it. So if you want to play with the big boys, you got to do your homework.
Yeah.
Okay. Come on here. You got to give us a fresh take.
You know what?
That's right. You got to be the big boy.
You know what? I
thought
was a big shot. I could just come onto your show.
Wait. Hold on, Jeremy. He has a rebuttal. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay.
No, Jeremy, I just want to express my sincere apologies because you're completely right. I came unprepared, and I'm new to this thing, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to speak with me. I'm going to go back to the drawing board.
Just started episode 12. Started episode 12. That's when Steve comes in, and the next time we'll let you call on the show, and you can give us what we're going to call it? We're going to call it Steve's Hot Takes. So you're going to give us one hot take next time we meet to discuss and do our second broadcast.
Not only am I going to watch it, guys, I'm going to take notes, and I'm
Good.
going to read my notes.
Good.
In a really,
just make sure you're concise.
That's
so
what it takes.
I'm not wasting everyone's time when I call in.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Baby Cakes. We're gonna continue on with our deep dive. You can watch via Sam's Facebook if you want. Thank you, Steven. Hanging up. Okay. All right. Anyway, as we were saying, yeah, such amateur hour. I was expecting him. He's like, he's texting me and he's going, Jeff, I know so much about Family Matters. I have a hot take. Come on, Jeff, come on. He just won't stop calling me. So finally, I let him on the air and he friggin' buckles like a fish. Yeah, fucking amateur hour. In any case, we were in the middle of talking about this yard sale. So tell about the quilt, Jeremy.
Yeah, so there's a quilt. It's a family heirloom, all right? And, I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to say meat and potatoes. She says, sell anything you want. Grandma says, sell anything you want. Just don't sell the quilt, right? And first of all, she's the only person who has that attitude. Everyone else is like, oh, don't sell this, don't sell that. She's like, fucking sell it all.
Sell whatever you want, just not the quilt.
Right? And Laura wants this fucking VCR so bad.
So bad.
She's worked so hard. Tagging everything, pricing everything.
Yep.
And she sees, this is their only opportunity because nothing else is really selling. And, she does make a mistake, but she tries to hold out. She tries to tell this fucking woman.
She does, man.
It's not for sale. It isn't until the woman really fucking pressures her.
Her integrity has a price, but it's a high price. And
it's a high price, and she really feels conflicted about it.
Right.
And then she makes the mistake, and, she really hurts her grandma.
Yeah.
And she hurts her grandma, and so she does everything she can to find this quilt and get it back. To
find the lady. And there's something that should be mentioned here. And again, we're gonna, listen, it's Family Matters, and we're gonna dive in about race, because race is definitely gonna come up from time to time. And in this situation, much in the same way that, you look at a movie like Night of the Living Dead, and what is the most astounding thing about a movie like Night of the Living Dead? It's the fact that they chose to cast a black lead, Dwayne Jones, to play Ben. And you go, well, what's so bad? What's so crazy about that? By casting a black lead, which they did not do on purpose, they just thought that Dwayne was the best actor for the job. This is 1968, during, great racial tension in our country. And what happens to Night of the Living Dead? What happens to the story once you cast a black actor? Suddenly, all of the tension between Harry Cooper and Ben becomes racial. It's not just about control over the house, over the basement versus the living quarters, or over the rifle. It becomes a fact of like, there's a black man who's telling me what to do, who knows what to do more in the situation than me. And the reason why I bring that up, and wait, let me finish. Now, the reason why I bring that up, the reason why you're wondering to yourself, Jeremy, you're wondering, like, Jeff, why are you bringing up Night of the Living Dead and this stuff? How does this plug in to Family Matters? Well, the lady that buys the quilt from Laura, and this is the subtext of the episode. This is never explicitly said. This is what I read into watching the episode. She buys the quilt from Laura. And the quilt is, as it turns out, the twist is that the quilt turns out to be 200 years old and has been in the Winslow family for 200 years and is the only record of their heritage. And the first thing you think in your head is, this is a fucking slave quilt. They're not even talking about, like, they don't ever say it, but it's totally a fucking slave quilt. Now, am I making assumptions? Yes.
She said pre-Civil War.
Pre-Civil War. So, I mean, God, it has to be a slave quilt. So basically, the Winslow's ancestors must have slave ties, slave roots, and that their ancestors were slaves.
Is a slave quilt like kind of like a slave necklace?
I don't know, but my point is that it's like a tapestry where, you know, clearly, and it's this patchwork quilt where, you know, family member, like the eldest daughter adds onto the quilt. It's priceless. As Mother Winslow says, it's priceless. And so, who's buying this quilt? This tall, blonde, white woman who's clearly, like, very rich and clearly sees that there's some, because she works for an auction house. So clearly she has identified this as a slave quilt, or it's like, you know, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if that's politically incorrect.
She identifies it as something of historical significance.
Right. Yes. And again, if I'm being insensitive, I apologize. I don't know how exactly the proper way, and if anybody wants to call me out and tell me that there's a better way to talk about this stuff, you just let me know. But she, you know, she goes, oh shit, I want that motherfucking slave quilt because, you know, I can mark that up to
your sensitivity is fucking top notch, and I love it.
All right, it's like I can get $3,000 for this slave quilt, and so she buys it. Laura's price of integrity is $300, which Laura like faints at, because I guess, you know, $300 in 1990s money is good money for a seventh grader, and so the there's the subtext of what Jeremy is about to talk about. Is that here is a girl who's like, this is the only connection we have to our past history, and you are monetizing it. You are trying to sell our history in the same way that your ancestors, or, you know, white people of long ago sold, you know, blacks in slavery. So for me, watching this episode, again, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm out of place here, but that's the subtext that I took away from this episode, and it made it more powerful, and it made me want to punch this woman in the face because she refused for so long to sell back the quilt to Laura. She wouldn't do it. She's trying to sell it to her for a markdown price of $2,800 from $3,000. All right, Jeremy, take it away.
So I think what you're saying is probably true. The first thing I wanted to sort of take issue with, and it's not a real issue, as far as what George Romero says about that all being just by chance that it turned out that way, I'm not sure I buy it.
Dude, I'm a Romeroist, man. Like a fucking hardcore Romeroist. I'm telling you, again, like, do I know personally? No, but like, I assure you, those dudes were radical. They were radical anti-establishment filmmakers, and to them, they were just they were progressive. They didn't see race as a skin color. They didn't see skin color when they were casting for that movie. And the other thing that I didn't mention is,
it seems like much more like, it was just by accident that it happened. It's like, you know, either way it was great.
No, it was by accident. You're right. That's exactly right. It was by accident in the sense that they're like, okay, Dwayne's gonna play Ben. Oh, Dwayne's black. Yeah, whatever. So what? Like, he's the best man for the job. It wasn't like, It wasn't like they
You
were
don't
like,
think they realized that they were adding that dynamic to it?
I really, really, truly believe they don't. And if you think about the context of Night of the Living Dead, like today, if you think about how that movie ends, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, even though it's a 51-year-old movie at this point, but like the ending of Night of the Living Dead is so relevant today. It's cutting edge. That's how scarily like ahead of its time it is. It's essentially like for everything that's going on with the Black Lives movement, like the Black Lives Matter movement, like it is Night of the Living Dead. It adds so much subtext to the ending, and if you just watch that movie and then yeah,
it's all right. So, but anyway, so I think what you're saying is true. I think I didn't get so much of like the similarity or like the parallel of her, you know, like buying and selling and therefore profiting off of the Winslow family, you know, simile. I didn't get so much that, which actually now that you bring it up is very interesting. And probably true, but I
because she's like a white woman. She's a white woman profiting off of a black family's personal history and trauma.
I didn't catch that. What I caught more was it was this like haughty-taughty white woman being like, just sort of giving them less respect and, you know, not really giving as much of a shit because it was a black family that she was talking. You know
Interesting.
I mean?
Yeah.
What you said, I think, takes it a lot deeper and is definitely true. But, you know, upon first watch, I'm just like, oh, she doesn't, you know, it's like, oh, man, this little black girl is in my fucking gallery crying. This is really embarrassing to me.
Right.
You know? And
right.
You know,
well, what happens? What happens in that part of the episode?
Well, you know, what happens in that part of the episode is Laura, and I feel like I should actually, let me do this because she deserves the respect that Jo Marie Peyton France gets. So, Laura Winslow was played by Kelly Williams.
Yeah.
And her performance, like we touched on already, throughout the show is fucking top notch and is incredible.
Right.
But here, I mean, she brings herself to tears, right? Which I don't know. I'm not an actor, right? I'm not a seasoned actor, but I've always been very impressed when I see actors make themselves cry. Like to me,
it can't be easy. It can't be easy. You got to go to a place, you know.
To a layman like me, that's oh wow, they know how to act when they know how to do that,
right?
You know, especially for like a child actor like her. So I was really impressed by that. I really felt her fucking remorse when she's begging that lady. I felt her remorse, and I kind of felt it throughout the episode. I mean, the grandma's hurt, but the grandma also knows that like there's nothing really that can be done, and that she's a kid, and not to like hold too much of her resentment.
Yeah, she doesn't like rake. Grandma Winslow, I feel like had every right to really rake her over the coals, and she really does not.
She doesn't. She does her best to be understanding and to let it go, although it's obviously not easy for her.
Right.
She does her best because she knows, you know, it's and I did something similar once. My grandfather, who, you know, God rest his soul, who flew. He was a navigator in the on bomber missions over Japan in World War II in the U.S. Air Force. He brought, when I was very little, he brought over a bullet. It was a bullet that had been shot at his aircraft.
Wow. Wow.
And so I was such a little kid. You know, he showed it to my brother. My brother held it. My older brother held it. And I don't know if you've ever seen it on cartoons. You know, whenever Bugs Bunny or someone gets shot with a gun, it kind of like explodes. You know, like it almost looks like it's like a bomb goes off or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And so I wanted to see if you throw a bullet, if the bullet will explode. So my grandpa lets me see the bullet. He puts it in my hand, and I throw it.
Oh my God.
I threw it into the brush right in front of my house. You remember my... You know,
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
My grandpa was so upset, he looked for it for like weeks. He actually went as far as renting a metal detector.
Oh my God.
And he never...
I never heard this story.
He never found it. It's one of my biggest regrets, you know, because this is something. You remember I had that lighter Cordova that was so important to me.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know, I thought that was important. Here's something that had real emotional significance to this man.
You know,
and his
I bet you it's still there, man. You should talk to the family. You'd be like, hey, man, I got to find this bullet for like my, you know.
You know, but yeah, so Laura feels really bad. And, you know, the grandma does her best to, you know, just to let it go. But Laura is like basically on a fool's errand trying to find it.
Well, remember in that previous episode when Laura gets a B+, she like becomes masochistic. She becomes paralyzed by morbid fear that she's never going to get into college, and she like Harriet's like, honey, do you want ice cream? And she's like, I don't deserve ice cream. Like she's like telling herself she doesn't deserve things in life because she got a B+. You know, and made worse by the fact that Eddie got straight A's. So like this like, of course Laura is going to be hard on herself for this mistake that she's made.
Yeah, and you know, she realized she also really hurt. She is hard on herself for sure. She holds herself to a very high standard.
Yes, that's the word.
So she's on this fool's errand to try and find, you know, because they didn't have social media back then. You couldn't put out, you know, what do they call missed connections on Craigslist or whatever. You know, she had to do this organically. And, you know, luckily... well,
what is organically? Explain for the audience what organically is.
Well, how she tries?
Yeah.
She tries. I think she goes around like with like a lost dog kind of...
She has flyers, man. She puts out flyers.
And it turns out that just by chance, Eddie being like this is kind of another trope. It's like... And you see this with Andy Brennan in Twin Peaks. You know, he's like the goofball who like can't really do anything right, but somehow he like steps on and trips on like the big piece of evidence that helps everyone out. You know what I mean?
Right.
The like goofball who doesn't really isn't very equipped at using his brain, but just happens to take a bunch of random photos and finds the lady who and her license plate.
Which felt very plausible to me, actually. I was very...
It totally did. And I had a similar... Well, that's... But anyway, you know, so they find the lady. Laura goes, she begs. The lady's like, listen, like, basically dream on.
Oh, I fucking hate that lady. She's like, I could sell it to you for $3,000. She's like, well, I could get you on a layaway plan. It's like, bitch, you came to his Sorry, didn't mean to call her bitch. You came to her friggin' house and bought it at a steal. You knew what you were buying. You knew you were clearly buying this historical like artifact that belonged to this family to sell at your auction house. And remember, we just said about how she was buying something that's clearly from slave history. She's selling it at an auction house.
Not only that, but she's also it wasn't just something that she bought at a house or whatever that she knew was of significance. She wouldn't take no for an answer.
Yep.
And they told her they didn't want to sell it.
So bad. Such a bad person.
Yeah. So, but yeah, anyway, Laura really, I'm sorry, was Kelly Williams?
Yeah, Kelly Williams.
Really impressed me with that performance.
And she even says, like, you know, she said the whole thing about what you said. She's like, I made a mistake. What did she say? Something about, like, I made a mistake and, like, I can't take it back or something like that. What was the thing that she actually said in her speech? I don't know if you remember, but it was like...
Well, she said she did say, you know, and I really hurt my grandmother.
Oh, that's what she said, maybe. Yeah.
That's one of the things she said, you know? And it's just...
Just, like, really real, raw, like truth, you know?
I felt it, man.
Yeah.
I felt... And that was a great way... Now, let's do a little transition here. That was a great way to end the original Family Matters.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because the show was about...
Because what happens at 12? What happens?
All right. So episode 12, I think there must have been some sort of break or something, you know, maybe like a vacation or, you know, a couple weeks or something without it, because we come back to the show and Carl doesn't have his sideburns anymore.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Carl's sideburns, to me, has been like... a strong indication of it being like an early season.
Oh yeah,
he looks different, and it's like, and I actually wrote this down somewhere. It's you get the similar thing with George Costanza in the early episodes of Seinfeld.
Yeah,
it's like you have these characters who are balding, and so you can kind of gauge what season you're on.
Uncle Phil too.
Uncle Phil, like on how much hair they have on their head.
Yep.
And Carl is one of those characters.
That's so funny that you've observed that, because that's for me too. I'm like, it's not a modern episode because Carl still has hair on his head, you know?
But even more so is that he's got these sideburns that make they just change his look a little bit. And when we come in on season 12, he doesn't have the sideburns.
Episode 12.
Episode 12. He doesn't have the sideburns anymore, right?
Right.
So he looks much more like the Carl that we're used to, even though, yes, he does still have more hair on his head. But I think the hair on his head, I think besides just the sideburns, I think has also been trimmed a little bit. So his head looks a little more round.
So he has a new look.
Kind of, slightly modified look.
Right.
And so anyway, Laura needs a date, right? Laura needs a date, and there's a lot to talk about in this episode as far as what it says about Laura. She wants a date, but she doesn't want to ask a guy. But we've talked enough about this kind of thing. Let's talk about the fucking elephant in the room, right?
What a perfect way to introduce Stephen Urkel, the elephant in the room.
And he's introduced by the mouse eater, as the mouse eater.
Yeah, he eats mice apparently, he came. My God, there's so much to pour over with Stephen Urkel. Oh my God. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So they talk about him as the mouse eater, and he's introduced as someone who could really be a throwaway character. Who Laura needs a date. It would be a fun episode to set her up with like a nerdy kid that she doesn't like. He
really is. He's totally throwaway in that episode. Or he could be. He's obviously centerpiece, but he's not meant to last.
The idea of Steve Urkel in this episode is a throwaway idea. Set her up with the nerdy kid, right?
Right.
But I think what made him have some staying power, he comes into the house, right? And before we get into the way the episode unfolds, you get the first bit of physical comedy from him, and he sort of walks by the couch and he knocks over this parlor table,
right?
Which I think has maybe a glass top or something.
It has a glass. No, it's a glass side table, and it has a lamp on it with papers, and he knocks the glass out of the thing as he trips.
Yeah, and there's something about the way that after he trips, he puts the table back up, and then the way he puts the paper back on the table, but it goes right through.
And he doesn't correct it. And this is indicative of Steve Urkel's part of his character, is that he means well. He's incredibly clumsy, but he's also careless in that he's just not, and he's not aware of social norms. I gotta tell you, I don't want to diagnose, and I don't want to diagnose insensitively, but it seems truthfully, that Steve might even be partially on the spectrum, on any part of the spectrum, a little bit, in the sense that he doesn't pick up on certain social cues of you knocked over a table, you heard glass shatter, you don't offer to clean it up or anything, you just put it back together, and then you put papers down, you hear the papers drop, and you continue on into the kitchen anyway, and you bring flowers that you've uprooted from a cemetery into someone's house, with the roots, tracking dirt into the house, and you're just a mess.
And I think the thing about Steve is that in the later seasons, right, he went through, obviously this happens in TV shows a lot. You have people who are older who play younger kids, right?
Right.
And I think Steve, he only had maybe a year or two in him before he hit puberty, right? Now,
probably. We'll know as we dive into further seasons.
So Jaleel White, by the time we got like Stefan or Kel or whatever, like that was kind of like what Jaleel White really looked like and
right,
is
right. Which he probably pushed for.
And that the whole Steve thing was an act, right? But I think if you were to see in this first season, I think Jaleel White's voice probably was closer to like Steve, like, you know what I mean? Because, in the later seasons, he's definitely putting on that voice. They get that high-pitched, nerdy voice. In this, I think this was kind of his natural voice. I think he probably, he was playing it up a little bit with his arms out and his, but I think he probably was kind of like a nerdy kid initially. And then as he went through puberty, he became more of a Stefan, and the whole Urkel thing was an act. But I have a feeling that Jaleel White at that age probably wasn't too far a cry from Steve.
Yeah, but it's interesting. You bring up a very interesting point with Stefan Urkel in the sense that, clearly now he's a star. Now Jaleel White is a star. He has some pushing power, and he goes, look, I'll keep playing Steve, but I need to have a character that's more like me. I can't be Steve all the time. And that's how this nutty professor takeoff sort of commences.
Mm-hmm.
So
Steve, comes into play. They set him up with Laura. Laura's.
By the way, we have a hard cutoff at 11 o'clock.
Yes, we do. I was thinking the same thing. So, I mean,
we're landing the plane anyway. So go ahead.
Yeah, Steve really. He's perfect for this role, right? He likes Laura. Laura doesn't like him. He's kind of, I'm going to stick around to the house till 10,
Right.
And he really cared that much that Laura, goes on the date without him.
Didn't give a shit at all. Because
okay, I'll just, make myself at home here.
Which is interesting. It's very indicative of, so maybe he's not on the spectrum, but maybe he's just his interests don't just lie in Laura, it's the family. He's fallen in love with not just Laura, but the family. And maybe Laura is the key to him becoming a part of the family, if you think about it. He wants to be
talented Mr. Ripley kind of thing.
Yeah, he becomes a Winslow by marrying into the family through Laura. And so obviously he loves Laura, clearly, but for he's I like what this family's got going on. And in order to get into this family, I need to get in through Laura. So that's interesting, I think.
Yeah, and, especially since now that we know that Carl is a low-down brother,
right.
Maybe Steve's, I don't know, I don't want to speculate.
No, I don't think, I think they're two, buddy. I know where you're going with that. And you know what? Maybe we'll see some semblance of that as we watch, but I don't think that's there. I think Carl does, everybody goes to sleep and Harriet knows what's up. Harriet's not a dummy. Harriet and him have an understanding. He gets out of bed, he puts on his shoes, he goes out. For instance, a great example, Carl, when the police car gets dented and Rachel is fixing the wheel well, Harriet comes in and sees Carl already in his bathrobe and he's raiding the fridge. Because you want to know what the truth is? Carl has just taken a shower. He never went to sleep. He probably just come back and he doesn't want to tell everybody else. So he goes, oh no, Carl's waking up. But she knows that Carl hasn't woken up. Carl's been out all night with Edwin. You know what I mean? And they've had a very raw, animalistic, sexual menagerie. And he's come home.
And they were having a
tryst.
They were having a party and play session that went on all night.
Yeah,
and
he had to take a shower.
They were being fueled by the meth that they bought from Steve's dad.
No, listen, come on. We know that if anything, if Carl is taking any drugs, he's taking poppers because of their effects on, the sphincter muscle and rectum. And And I don't say that like disparagingly in any way, shape, or form. I mean, that's just like that's just like something that's criteria. That's like a thing. And so I'm sure that that's the one thing, because Carl is also a cop, so he turns his eye when it comes to poppers. But, he comes home, he's in his bathrobe, and he's raiding the fridge. And when Harriet catches him, she knows she can leverage any guilt that Carl might feel for stepping out of the house to do, to take care of his thirst that Harriet cannot quench. And so she leverages that and goes, Carl! She's like, Carl, what are you doing? What are you doing in the fridge? I thought we were, like about his diet. Because we all know Carl's kind of husky. He's a bit of a bear. He's not straight up, he's not obese like he is in later episodes. So it's like she's pushing in on his weight when in reality she knows he just came back from being with Edwin or Lawrence or, any of the other, Terrence or any of the other fellows that Carl has his trysts with.
Yes.
In the days before, Grindr and such, because now it's a lot easier for Carl to do what to take care of his needs. So
listen. So Steve, I think what we should do is we'll dive in next week or next time.
We're not going to be able to truly unpack Steve Urkel, but let's listen. What time is it right now? It's 10:50. So real quick, let's wrap this up about Steve. Real quick. In this episode, he ends up, I think we actually really did wrap it up. He he ends up realizing that this is a place that he wants to be all the time, and like decides that like the key to getting into this family is I want to be with Laura, and that's it. That's the first 12 of the first season. And, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive, and our goal is to get through all 9 seasons, because we know the rewards, that are to come are so glorious. We have glorious rewards, ahead of us in that, those later seasons are going to be treasure troves to, pore over and to compare and contrast with the earlier seasons that we're watching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any closing remarks, Jeremy, before I end the stream?
I mean, I just want to say, like, some of these set pieces are ridiculous. When they're working on that shower, just so that they can have a good angle, you have about, like, fucking, like, 50 square yards of, like, blank tile space, which would be so fucking weird in a bathroom.
It's a large bathroom.
Yeah, it's like an insanely large bathroom. And, I just... There's other stuff, but I don't know if I really remember any of it right now. There was something that that came to mind, but that's what it was. You know what? I thought it was really weird that like Harriet, they make this big deal about her getting this job and like getting this promotion.
Oh, that's such a good episode. Job. Yeah.
And and the thing is, she's never at work.
Never at work.
She's never at fucking work.
She never. It's true. It's true.
Establish what a fucking strong woman she is. What a hard.
It's a great moment for her. It's a great moment for her.
Yeah. And it's an early episode. It's like the second or third episode. It shows how strong she is, how much backbone she has to stand up to this fucking white fucking piece of shit mansplaining to her.
Yeah. About how she's not management material.
This is a management position. I really don't think that you're cut out for it. But
like won't even hear her out.
And she fucking stands up to him.
Yeah, it's great.
Tells him that I have a full-time job and a full-time job,
and I don't get paid, and I don't get to take vacation.
I don't even take vacation, and it establishes her as a really fucking strong, solid, stable fucking woman, and then they never make another mention of her job for as long as I can remember this.
Yeah, it's true. And real quick, and we're going to end here. Real quick, I just want to chime in. Yeah, that was a really great moment. However, I was also laughing because first of all, she really defines what it is to be a mother, and in the most positive, wonderful way. So I really don't want to diminish that in any way, shape, or form. However, I did find it kind of funny that she's like coming into could you imagine going into a job like any job, and like trying to like use the fact that you're a mother as a qualification is like, again, it's to highlight that motherhood is a full-time job, and that's like a big issue today, especially. So this is actually a very progressive episode that's ahead of its time. However, I was kind of laughing in the fact that, like, would somebody really get a job in that situation? Like, looking at it like a real perspective as like, oh yeah, that all adds up on paper. Okay, here you go. Especially after being such like a mansplaining douche.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, this was really fun. We'll see you again with the second half of season 1. Until then, I'm Frumess.
And I'm Spice.
And this has been Family Matters.